South Korea may seem like a foreign and exotic country, but it shares many similarities with our Western world. However, with subjectivity and let's say a Canadian or American point of view, some of its characteristics may seem futuristic, while others seem like they come straight from the 50s. So, what's the truth? First of all, South Korea is a country of Northeast Asia, is home to a rich and diverse culture that inspired many of its nearby territories, and was also inspired by some of them. Now, Korea's traditional culture involves many different aspects, just like any culture would. Of course, it has its amount of legends, one of them being the foundation myth. This theory says that the first person to reign over Korea was called Tangun, and he was some sort of divine man who apparently appeared out of nowhere and gave the people of Korea reason in 2333 before Christ. As for arts, pottery and the art of porcelain were both very present in Korean culture. Artists who created such masterpieces perfected their methods throughout centuries, as it is part of Korean heritage even today. Paintings, on the other hand, were very reminiscent of China's already existing art. The style and the themes were similar, but with a little Korean twist to it, of course. One of the roles it had was to somehow worship different lines of thought or religions, such as Confucianism and Buddhism. These are only a few of the elements that make up Korean culture, as literature and poetry, dance and ceremonies, among other things, are also very defining and telling of what the country's traditions are like. This said, where did these cultural aspects come from? It happened when Chinese men first came to Korea. They brought with them a particular art style that heavily influenced Koreans in their own artistic creations. At the time, Korea was divided into three nations, and there was some sort of competition between them, which was even reflected in their art. One of these kingdoms ended up passing on their art to Japan, which was the foundation for their own art style. Another important part of South Korea's culture is its ties with North Korea. After both territories separated after World War II, there have been many tensions between them. Both countries are separated by one of the most protected and dangerous boundaries on Earth. Many people from both sides of Korea still, to this day, have family and friends on the other side. Also, with North Korea's frequent nuclear warnings, the menace of terrorism constantly looms over South Korea. However, there has been the implementation of the Sunshine Policy in the past, which was supposed to help citizens of North Korea economically. While this supported the ideas of the conservatives, the progressives wanted to help them uncover their human rights first. Even though human rights seem to be a big problem in North Korea, South Korea also has its fair share of issues on the matter too. Before Korea became modernized, human rights were not really a priority for the government. It only became an important topic when the country got in contact with Japan and the Western world in general. This changed many things, like the involvement of women in society, the access to education, etc. Nowadays, everyone in the country gets the same education, and general advances have been made to ensure equality and human rights, but it's still a little bit behind compared to many Western countries on this regard. As for gender equality, in the middle of the 20th century, women were put at a big disadvantage on the job market compared to men. Gender roles were very strict, and most women's roles was to stay home. While most of the Western world moved on from this point of view, Korea was late to the party and still holds some of these views even today. While women are more involved in society, the point of equality hasn't exactly been reached yet, and gender roles are definitely still relevant. Gay rights suffer from the same drawback too. Even though not everyone in North America supports gay rights, a lot has been done to help the cause. The same can't be said for South Korea though. Most people have to hide their sexual orientation if it differs from the norm. Celebrities who have come out have committed suicide from the amount of negativity and lack of support they received after making such an announcement. No information whatsoever about this phenomenon is given to the population, so most people don't even know what homosexuality really is. It may seem like this country is behind in terms of equality and human rights compared to the lifestyle Westerners are used to, but it's not all that bad, and remember, all cultures are different. As of now, citizens of Korea have the right to practice any religion they want to. It has a long history of shamanism, which was a big influence on the country's traditional culture. Some of the modern and greatly practiced religions include Buddhism and Christianity. Of course, there have been conflicts related to this in the past. Although not an official religion, Confucianism, a line of thinking brought in East Asian countries, was implemented in Korea and still dictates some of the country's conservative ideals to this day. When it comes to food, Koreans generally have an edge on others for health. Two meals that are important to know in order to fully understand Koreans, because as the saying states, you are what you eat, are kimchi and bulgogi. Kimchi is a fermented vegetable dish, while bulgogi is a marinated meat dish. Both of these options are very healthy and are generally reflective of Korea's overall alimentation. Now, you might be wondering what language is spoken in Korea. Well, it's called Korean, but it's more complicated than that. Before, Korea had two different languages, a variety of Chinese for the elite of society, and a sort of Korean Chinese for ordinary people. At one point, a new alphabet called Hangul was invented. It became the standard alphabet for the population of South Korea, although Chinese characters somewhat still influence the language even today. The way letters are placed in a syllable are very telling of the old ways of thinking by referencing the three basic elements of the universe, which are heaven, earth, and man. But what about popular culture? What about music? How are technology and culture tied together? Well, one might think that the United States is the most technologically involved country in the world, but statistics and studies prove otherwise. This title goes to South Korea. Advances are constantly being made, and it has some of the fastest internet connection in the whole world. Phenomena like the frequent streaming of K-pop, which stands for Korean pop, mukbangs, which are videos where people record themselves eating in front of their computer and basically get money from people who watch them, and the fact that it is home to the World Cyber Games, the world's largest video game competition, confirm this point. Popular Korean culture has been able to cross the country's borders. Phenomena like K-pop and Korean dramas are part of Hallyu culture, which became known overseas, be it in other East Asian countries or in the Western world. Korean movies are also featured in foreign film festivals at times. In the end, Korea is not advanced nor late, it is just unique. While things like human rights should be universal, it is important to know that even the bad parts of a country or population are a part of its culture. We should look at things from an objective point of view, overthrow ethnocentrism and adopt cultural relativism. We are all different, and it's that originality that makes the human race so beautiful.